Google is facing backlash after reports it has been working to release a censored version of its search engine for the Chinese government. According to The Intercept, there has been an internal struggle within the company about the project, codenamed Dragonfly. The version would comply with China's strict censorship controls, blocking certain search terms. For more, executive editor at CNET News, Ian Scher, joins me from San Francisco. Hi, Ian. What does China want to restrict and censor in Google searches, and what would actually be blocked?
So for the most part, what China's looking to censor is stuff around human rights, free speech, a lot of the stuff that really upsets the regime there. And it's something that tech companies particularly have really struggled against because the ethos around Silicon Valley is this idea of, maximalized free speech and giving access to information to everybody. And so that it's set up this very weird power struggle between the Chinese government, who controls access to the Chinese market, and these U.S. tech companies.
Google has a bit of a history with China. This isn't the first time this has come up. Can you tell us a bit more about their previous relationship and what happened then?
Yeah, so Google actually was in China. You could use the Google search engine for quite a while until 2010, when the company pulled out around issues around censorship, but also, you may remember, there was concerns about Chinese hacking happening back then. And so now it looks like Google might be turning that around. But it's worth noting, part of the reason that we're seeing some of this is that the growth of both Google and Facebook, for that matter, in the United States and the Western world has started to slow. And this is an opportunity. There's 1 billion people in China. It's 3 times the number of people in the United States. It's a big opportunity to grow, but you have to deal with these very hairy issues.
There have been reports of rumblings going around Google headquarters in regards to Project Dragonfly. How are the employees reacting to the idea of a censored Google?
So Project Dragonfly is what this whole thing is being called. And, look, employees generally in Silicon Valley really don't like bending to governments. We've seen this quite a bit, especially at Google. There was another project that was involving the State Department that got very public fight between Google and its employees. And there was pushing back from the employees on the ground. We've seen other stuff like this, too, where a lot of the companies, their employees just don't want to give up on these ideals that they're working toward when they're talking about all the stuff that Silicon Valley does. So it's a very tough issue.
Really tough for the employees. And now Google has not made any public statement denying the claims that they are working with China. What does this say about the project to you?
I mean, it seems like from all accounts, that this is something that would make sense that they would try to do. And it's serious enough that just a few minutes ago, we saw that Senator Mark Warner sent a letter to Google asking for details. And part of what he's concerned is about the United States giving up on, any U.S. company giving up on the ideals of the United States, which is kind of talking about free speech and all of that. So people are taking this as something that's probably a given that at least Google's really seriously looking at it.
How do the employees feel about working with the government, whether foreign or domestic?
I think if you look at what happened between Apple and the FBI, you get a really good sense of where Silicon Valley sits on this. You may remember that Apple went against the FBI a couple years ago, arguing that they should not be forced to help hack into a terrorist's iPhone to get information. And part of their concern was that by giving any government access to the phones, what it does is it reduces the security for all of us and political dissidents and all these other people who you wouldn't want to have their phones hacked, possibly. So what we see is that Silicon Valley has set itself up for being in this really big struggle with any government who wants to come down on either privacy issues, free speech issues, and so on. And it's probably going to become even more of a problem as these companies start looking to try and grow in China.
It will be interesting to see what happens. Ian Scher, thank you.
My pleasure.
So last week I uploaded a video where I basically tear into all of the crap that YouTube has allowed to happen to its creators over the past year. My goal with this video was to spread awareness about YouTube's severe flaws, since I feel like not enough people out there truly realize just how bad the situation on YouTube has become. And in the few days after I uploaded this video, a lot of interesting things happened. First of all, the YouTube Rewind got hammered this year. Within a few days, it was already in the top 25 most disliked videos of all time on YouTube. You had multiple big YouTubers coming out and criticizing the Rewind, and you even had people who were in the Rewind coming out and giving some fairly damning reports about how YouTube mistreated them. And I'm really glad to see all of this. It seems like tons of people are finally waking up and seeing through YouTube's tricks. I'm really glad so many people out there are coming out and disliking the Rewind on their own, because I'm pretty sure that YouTube tried to prevent my message from getting out to the public.
Well, for decades, only crackpots and crazy people believed in UFOs. That's what I thought anyway. And then in recent years, it turns out that governments have been taking them seriously all along. Very seriously. Nick Pope is a journalist who has spent years researching UFOs for the British government. He says that UFOs aren't just real, they also frequently come close to crashing into commercial airliners, among other things. Nick Pope joins us tonight. Nick, thank you very much for coming on. So it's really not a question of, do governments believe UFOs are real? Yes, they do. The United States government does. The British government does. The question is, do they have any idea what they are, where they're from?
No, we don't. We keep an open mind on it. We don't rule anything off, take nothing off the table with this. Our point really is that whatever these things turn out to be, there is a serious defense, national security, and air safety issue here.
Yes. Well, so that's kind of the nub of it, and that's where my interest comes from. So why aren't governments encouraging the population to, as they say about terrorism, if you see something, say something, report sightings to the government so we can make sense of this potential threat?
Well, they should be, and that's what we certainly did at the Ministry of Defence for many years. We took it very seriously. Our own pilots were seeing these things. We were having radar operators track them. And we knew, again, through intelligence and through open source material, we knew that the Russians and the Chinese and others were working on this too. The problem was that just the pop culture baggage from the term UFO, flying saucer, little green men, people don't take it seriously. But they should.
So we've ruled out, I think, that these are aircraft, experimental aircraft, or technically advanced aircraft from other countries. Is that true?
Well, no, we keep an open mind, as I say, and some of these things probably are Russian or Chinese, whoever it is, but that's the point. We must find out if there's something in our airspace we need to know. For years, governments said they didn't do this. They did. I did it for the British government. I can only talk about this now because my old employers are gradually declassifying and releasing information about my old job. We now know, of course, the Pentagon had a program too. I think it will take congressional hearings to get to the bottom of all this, not just in the United States, but all around the world. And I'd like to see those congressional hearings.
Commercial pilots have very often reported sighting objects in the air that seem to defy the laws of physics. To what extent are these objects a threat to commercial aviation, potentially?
Well, certainly the British Ministry of Defence and our Civil Aviation Authority, which is the UK equivalent of your FAA, have dozens of cases in our files about near misses, some of which where pilots have had to take evasive action. And again, it comes back to the point. I don't care, in one sense, what these things are, but when there is this flight safety concern, when we have these near misses, we sure as heck should be doing more to find out.
That's for sure. Nick Pope, really one of the most credible experts on this subject. I hope you will come back on our show. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
And that's where we're going to wrap up Thursday, the 25th of October's news. And this is where we like to show everybody what's going on in the world and let them have a listen and make up their own minds. In the meantime, we're into day 3 now in Dublin with this solid whiteness in the sky all day, every day, for the last 3 days. And I actually predicted this and put it into the video at the start of the month, okay, which was 3.5 weeks ago. So For the first time doing all these videos, I can actually say it's the first time I've actually been right on something. It's freezing cold here at the moment as Venus gets closer to Earth. Keep an eye on the 26th, which is tomorrow. In the meantime, thanks for listening to the madness news that goes on in the world, which is real. And until tomorrow, see yous.